All right. Good morning, y'all. Today we're going to talk about rock bottom, how you find yourself there. I'll talk a little bit about my own story, and more importantly, how to get yourself out of rock bottom. Um, and really, a lot of this will be applicable to anyone who's struggling with like anxiety, depression, like just feeling like you've lost momentum in life, feeling like you're stuck, which um, happens a lot more often than we'd like. Um, so I'll start. Back in 2020, um, I kind of lost control of my entire life, to put it mildly. I was managing money for a group of investors, friends and family. During the pandemic, went into a steep drawdown, panicked, took out millions of dollars in pandemic loans, like um, illegal loans that I wasn't entitled to, and just went through a phase where like I didn't really want to be alive anymore, frankly. Like I look back at the way I was acting, like doing a lot of drugs, drinking heavily, um, just like put myself in a really bad situation that that was only getting worse and worse. Like I think the best phrase that I've learned since is like when you're in a hole, stop digging. But I just couldn't do that, and it got to the point where I stopped caring about the consequences of my actions. Where like I figured I wouldn't even be alive when the day came that I have to face the music. And so looking back, like I'll be the first one to say that I was wrong. Like I don't make excuses. I don't really like people that make excuses. Um, I got exactly what I had coming to me, like I deserved it. And as someone um, who constantly laments the lack of justice in the universe, like I have no problem objectively if it happens to be me that goes under the gun. So this is 2020. I'd say less than a year later, I got arrested, written up in the papers, gigantic shitstorm. It was a state case at first. 3 weeks later, it went federal. Then I went to a rehab clinic for a month, came back out, got my head together, and summer of 2021 was just like a giant shitstorm. And I'm not here to talk like endlessly about myself. Like I've written a book for charity that has all this stuff in it. If you really want to learn more, go ahead. But like me standing here talking about my own life, does it really help anyone? Like yes and no. I try to look back on this whole experience in the way, like how can I use what happened to me to help other people? And so there's certain messages in there that that I've learned through time, like don't really resonate. Like for me to say, don't break the law, or you should always be honest, or like you should stop drinking, or you should stop doing drugs. Like these type of messages, they kind of fall on deaf ears because you already know this shit. Like I already knew this shit. Like you're not supposed to break the law. You're supposed to always tell the truth. You're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to do drugs, but people do it anyway, right? And so I've learned that like whoever is listening, whether it's ever, usually I'm a writer. Like I enjoy both writing and speaking, but I prefer writing, and I think in writer terms first. And in terms of who the reader is or who the listener is, it's almost like you're speaking to one of two groups. There's a group who already listens to you, who already agrees with everything you're saying, and then there's another group who like it falls on deaf ears. And so I think like mentally, when we try to come out with a message to help someone else, we think that we're speaking to someone who's like dead in the middle and they're waiting to be pushed one way or the other. And that's not really the case from what I've found. And so as far as this video, like I'll try to stick to topics that are a little off the beaten path, because otherwise what's the point of me going through with all this, and what's the point of me wasting your time if it's just going to be like, hey, you shouldn't break the law? Like, bro, you already know that. So I guess we'll go right into what exactly is rock bottom. And I'm not sure there's a dictionary definition. I think the best definition of what is rock bottom is the point where you can no longer lie to yourself, right? And so the reason why I brought up like my own kind of, I don't know if I would call it journey. I would call it like, because I think one thing with rock bottom is that it's 100% your fault, right? Like let's say your spouse dies, or like God forbid, like a kid dies, you're going to be in a fucked up place. But is that really rock bottom? I don't think so. I think it's just you're up against it in life. Like something bad happened to you that wasn't your fault, and you got to deal with the consequences, which you had nothing to do with. But I think everything else in life, like rock bottom, I think to me is defined by a bad situation that you put yourself in with your own actions. And so, like for me personally, like there were kind of multiple rock bottoms. I haven't really decided which was which. Like the point where I didn't really want to be alive, that's kind of a rock bottom. But there's another rock bottom when like you get arrested and everything blows up in your face, and you have to deal with the fallout from friends, family, investors. Like you have to look yourself in the mirror. Like you recognize that you're going into a situation that's going to take years to clean up. And so I don't actually don't have a really good answer for like what was rock bottom. Like, is sitting in a jail cell rock bottom? Is being in a rehab clinic rock bottom? Is being like in denial and like fucking yourself up with drugs and committing felonies? Like, is that the rock bottom? So I don't really know. I kind of just put this all out here because a lot of times now these days, like I feel like I'm Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction in the sense that when my phone rings, I know that there's like if it's someone I haven't heard from in a while, I know that like there's a body in the trunk covered in blood, figuratively speaking. Like I'm using a metaphor. No trunks, no bodies, no nothing. But like I've kind of become the guy that people call whenever they're in a tough place. And to be completely honest, like I wouldn't have it any other way. Because I think one thing that rock bottom teaches you is that when it's a sunny day, you have a million friends. Everyone wants to be your friend. But when the shit hits the fan, like that's when real friends become harder to find. And I think like the bonds that I've developed these days, at least with the people that I speak to regularly, like the bonds that tend to endure, like the real friendships, are defined by what happens at in the lows, in the chaos of your life. And I think Charles Bukowski said that if you want to find out who your real friends are, get a jail sentence. Some of the wisest words ever written. And ironically, another guy, actually a guy in a jail cell, told me the only two places in life where you find out who your real friends are a jail cell and a hospital bed. I think that's absolutely the case. And like, especially when I talk to guys who are a little older than me, like I'm 38. When I talk to guys who are in their 50s and 60s, who have a little bit of perspective on life, and guys my age, like they say the same thing. They're like, as you get older, you just realize that most relationships in your life are fake, and that most people just want what they can get from you. So hey, I'm like pretty like optimistic, upbeat guy by nature, but I've really had to grapple a lot over these last, I guess, 5 years since 2020. I've had to grapple a lot with like expecting too much from myself, expecting too much from other people, and like the reality of how this world really is, and the reality of how people really are, and you know, deceiving yourself into how deep your relationships really are. And very few of them are as deep as you think, but you don't find out until the shit hits the fan. So as far as getting out of rock bottom, um, this advice here will sound kind of uh, boring because it is, but unfortunately it's the best advice, is that your discipline and your habits are by far the number one way, not just out of rock bottom, but to deal with anything you have going on up here, like anxiety, depression, just general like discord. I don't really have a better word for it. But what I found is that it comes down to like sleep, diet, and exercise. Those are the first three things you have to take care of. Like sleep 8 hours, eat clean, exercise every day, especially if you can push yourself to get up early in the morning. And I've written a few threads on Twitter about this, like not taking any days off. I think the number one thing you can do in your entire life to keep your head straight is get up as early as you can, like ideally with a 4 on the clock. You could start with 5 something, go right to the gym, fuck yourself up. And then after that, if you have time, if you can squeeze it into your day, like go outside, watch the sunrise, like say good morning to the man. And then like I have like a little prayer that I kind of try to switch up so it doesn't sound boilerplate, but basically like, thank you God for everything in my life. If you give me nothing more from this day forward, I'm a contented man. Amen. And then I go about my day. And all of that really came in handy like 4 or 5 years ago when I was in the thick of it, like going through government prosecution, like dealing with the fallout from all my close relationships, family, friends, everything, kind of just really struggling with like how unfamiliar all these situations were. But I found that when you get up early and you take care of these little things. Because really, if you read any of the old books, or if you read the Bible, a lot of what I've just mentioned, like those early hours are sacred, right? And so you're showing gratitude. You're going outside in nature, right? Like I live in Florida, and so I try to make time every morning um, to run a few miles to the beach, jump in the ocean, watch the sunrise, say good morning to God. And after that, like I don't really have bad days. It's hard to explain, and it's one of those things that it'll take you 3 to 6 months of I don't want to say practice, but like habits take I think 3 months to get put into place. And this is why a lot of people like they'll go on a weekend vacation and they come back and they don't feel relaxed or rejuvenated at all, because that's not how it works. Like you're not going to go watch one sunrise and feel great about yourself. You have to do these things every single day for, I'd say 3 to 6 months. Like that's how long it takes to get booze and drugs out of your system. It's how long it takes to put like any new habit into place. So be patient. Like the way I would say it is that the payment is due every single day. And if you do this shit, if you do those things consistently for 3 months, like you will have a clear mind. You will be putting yourself in the best possible place mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually to deal with whatever life throws at you. So that's the advice. I hate to give that advice because that falls under what I said earlier in terms of like advice that you already know, right? Like don't break the law, you know that. Like take it easy on the alcohol, you know that. And so like you should work out, you know that. You should eat clean, you know that. You should sleep 8 hours, you know that. And so again, like I kind of worry that I'm either, like I said, I'm speaking to one of the two groups, people who are already like nodding their head right now, like, yeah, bro, I got you, I'm doing that. And then there's people who are like, no, who haven't really realized it yet. And like I know that I'm not going to be the one to change their mind. No guy on the internet is going to be someone to change their mind. It has to happen usually through hitting rock bottom, through like smashing into the fucking concrete head first. And that's when you kind of get up, shake yourself off, and say, all right, I got to make some changes. So, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least emphasize how important that is. And I think if you ever find yourself in a tough place, or if you're in a tough place right now, like I said, just feeling anxious, depressed, feeling stuck, feeling like you have no momentum, feeling like you don't have like clarity in your mind, like without that, you can't really accomplish shit in life. Like your relationships are going to be fucked up, your career is going to be fucked up, your sleep's going to be fucked up. Like whatever is, until you can find a way to settle your mind, you're not going to go anywhere in life. And so that's why, yes, this is a video on rock bottom, but really it's a video on like keeping your head straight. Because really, like that's the best you can hope for in life, is to have a clear mind to deal with all the shit that inevitably life is going to throw at you. And so, like I said, the best advice I have that actually works: sleep 8 hours, or at least try to get up early, fuck yourself up, go out in nature, watch the sunrise, say good morning to God. And I found that if you do that consistently, like everything in life, the difficulty of it comes down a lot. I would talk a little more about like relationships and friendships, like if you find yourself at rock bottom. But like I think the main thing that I can say is you don't really know who your friends are until you reach that point. And it actually doesn't even have to do with whether you're the one that fucks things up or not. Like I remember when I was at the rehab clinic, there was a lady I was really good friends with who she was a domestic violence victim, and she was there trying to just like get her head straight, kind of like I was. And she said that when it all went down, like she went to go find her best friend of 20 years, nowhere to be found. Like, and you hear that over and over and over again from people who find themselves in a tough situation, whether it's their fault or not. And so like the one thing I would say is like just keep an open mind and like let the universe come to you, and like push out your locus of control, I think would be the way that the books would describe it. Meaning like what you think your circle looks like and what your circle actually looks like are very, very different. And so I say this because like I caused myself a lot of pain and stress at the time, like trying to make sure that all my relationships stayed intact. And I wasn't really listening. Like if a bridge is burning and you're trying to put it out, but the other guy's like basically dumping gasoline on it, telling you like, nah, bro, this shit is burnt. then let it go. I think that's one of the hardest things that you have to learn to deal with in life is the acceptance that a relationship is over and that it's not coming back. Um, Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it is your fault. But I think having the um, like people struggle with closure in all regards, but especially when you're the one that fucked things up, like having the peace of mind, I guess, to say this relationship is over, it's not coming back, and I'm the one that fucked it up. And that's the way you get your self-respect back and you get your dignity back because this world isn't that big. Like you're going to run into people again, and so you kind of like learn to give people a head up, like, but just accept that like everything is impermanent. And then when people come flying out of the dark to show you that they are your friend and that they're the ones that care about you, like stay open minded to that and recognize that over the years, like you've probably been neglecting like who your real friends were this whole time, the ones that really had your back this whole time. And you'll kind of find that like the higher you climb in life, the less loyalty there is. Like a lot of friends, once you get up the kind of social ladder, it's almost like an inverse relationship in terms of how loyal those relationships are. Like for me, it was like a lot of guys like I played high school football with were the ones who came out of nowhere. Or like, bro, I got you. Like, don't sweat any of this shit. And so like never ever neglect friendships in general. I think that's a big mistake I see people making is they get very focused on their career and they get very focused on their family. Um, and they kind of just discard friendship. And I'm not going to be the one to change anyone's mind, but you're making a huge mistake because really friends are the only thing you have that are permanent. Like you could have a great relationship with your lady, but she could walk out the door tomorrow, and your kids, like who knows? Everything else, like your money can come and go, your social position can come and go, but friends are like a loyal friend. I think I wrote in Blind Spots that loyal friends are worth more than money, and anyone who says otherwise doesn't have either of the two. So in the event that you're neglecting friendships, like don't. But like I said, like I have a feeling these words are going to fall on deaf ears, and like you're doing things the way you're going to do things. So next, I have to say on regret, which is a big, big. I see, like I said, like when I talk to people these days, it's something I see like weighing people down and preventing them from moving forward in life. And so the one thing I would say that kind of helped me a lot is the recognition that let's say you fuck something up in life, like whatever it was that led you to make that decision, it was going to pop up eventually. Like nothing is avoidable. And I think even the way I would say it is like God is going to keep teaching you the same lessons over and over and over again until you get the fucking picture and you make a change in your life and stop making those mistakes. And so especially like, like I've worked in markets my whole career. I always have people being like, oh, I just blew up, like I lost a shitload of money. But that was something you can sit there and regret it, obviously, like it was a bad decision. But whatever it was inside you or whatever it was that you were lacking from like a framework perspective, it was going to pop up eventually and fuck you up. And so you can repair whatever it was that was broken inside you and like fix whatever it was mentally that led you to make those bad decisions. But to sit there and regret it for happening, I think is a waste of time. Like when you read a lot of biographies and history and you study like the rise and fall of great men, you'll see that what makes them great is their ability to turn misfortune to their advantage over and over and over again. And so really a lot of things that people regret, like you can't look at that. Like everything is a test. Everything is an opportunity for you to improve yourself and make yourself better and fix your flaws and work out your defects of character. And so once you shift your mindset towards that, regret kind of disappears. Like bad things happen, you use it to become a better person and you move forward. And I think this also applies for relationships and like friendships too, where once a relationship is broken, whether it's with like a friend or someone of the opposite sex, instead of going back and trying to repair it, which like you see people doing all the time, this is personal opinion, so you can disagree with me, but like when a relationship is broken, it's broken. And anyone who's tried to like get back together with an ex, like already knows this and probably still keeps making the same mistakes. Like I said, God's going to keep teaching you. God's going to let you make that mistake over and over until you stop fucking making it and learn. But like, let's say you fuck up a relationship, use what happened there to become a better person, and then use that to be better in the next relationship. But like, accept the fact that like that last one's over. You fucked it up. But instead of sitting there pining away or trying to repair it, like learn the lessons, like build yourself up, and then be a better friend, be a better boyfriend, be whatever, be a better husband, be whatever it is that like that got you into that mistake in the first place. So I would kind of just say, like when it comes to regret, like the inevitability of your flaws, I think has at least helped me um, in moving forward from mistakes I've made in the past. So last topic, I would say we'll talk about like guilt and shame. And actually, before doing this video, like I took some time and looked up the difference between the two because I think they're used interchangeably. But no one really takes the time to think like how they differ and how to like cope with them. And these are things that like everyone deals with on a daily basis pretty much. And it's funny, like people I talk to, like shame, like guilt and shame are definitely things that if you don't learn how to put a stop to them, or at least like cope with them in a healthy way, they will prevent you from moving forward in life, I guess is the way to say it. Like I've talked to people who are still weighed down from shit from like 10 years ago. And unless you find a way to like process these things, like you're stuck. You can't, like, you're not on this earth long enough to sit there and be weighed down by your past actions. Like you gotta, no matter what anyone else says, like you gotta keep it pushing. Like whatever you did wrong, just do better going forward. Whatever bad shit you did, like do good shit going forward. And then at the end of the day, like when you die and then lowering your casket into the grave, that's when God will determine on balance were you good or were you bad, right? But to sit here, like to be 40 years old and be stuck on something you did when you were 25, like I understand how it feels to be like stuck in your own emotions, but sometimes I want to just like slap someone in the face and be like, snap out of it, man. But having been in that position, like I also understand that, hey, stop feeling that way. That doesn't work. Sometimes you feel some kind of way and you're stuck like that. So guilt and shame, like guilt, the best way that I've kind of come to understand it, guilt is is up here. Shame is down here in terms of like how these things are in you. Guilt is over something you did. Shame is who you are. So shame like runs much deeper than guilt. And so I think guilt, at least like taking accountability for your actions, is kind of the way out of guilt. Like, yeah, I did that. And then that starts to, that's how you at least move forward from things you did. Shame is much harder to recover from. And I think these are actually really powerful emotions that once you learn to harness them, they should make you better. Like once you learn to stop having them weigh you down and use them to start pushing you forward, like sort of same with like depression, like these are all ways of your body and your mind telling you that like you're wrong, like you're living your life wrong. Depression is kind of just like something in you is telling you like you got to make a change. Whatever you're doing now, this is wrong. And so like I understand like people will debate me on that. They're like, oh, sometimes it's clinical, whatever. But I think in general, like the more you can kind of take control of these kind of things, like I personally, at least every time I've felt really down, I guess depressed, I would say, there's always been a reason. And once you figure out what that reason is, sometimes it takes some digging, then you can make the changes in your life to keep moving forward. And that's what gets you out of that. But as far as guilt and shame, and it's funny, like once you sort of become more familiar with these emotions, you realize that pretty much every single day you're going to deal with guilt or shame. Like you're going to say, like, and every single person you'll ever meet has something in their past that they feel guilty about or that they're ashamed of. And you almost always like it's pain that you cause other people, right? So like some things in life are more like surface level, like money always comes back, like your social position comes back. You can always find a new husband, a new wife. But when you think I've always found that the things that I dwell on the most it's always pain that I caused other people. And it could be things that like I'm not even sure that I was entirely wrong. Like it could be like I was in a relationship with a girl and I knew that it just wasn't going anywhere. And I knew that each day that I dragged it on, I was like wasting her time. Because each day she's with me is a day that she's not out meeting the right person. Like I'm not the right person. I wasn't the right person for her. Um, and so kind of like as soon as that became apparent to me, I just went like cut it off, like disappear, try to disappear from their life as fast as you can, which I think is like the only way you can let them heal. And this has happened to me more than once, but still, like when you look back, you're like, you fucked someone's life up, right? Like they were in love with you, and you broke their heart, and it's kind of like one of these things you just have to like. You're not sure if you're right or wrong. Like I think logically, you have to do the right thing, which is just disappear, break it off as soon as you know that you're wasting your time. But like these kind of things leave permanent wounds in people. And so like those are the kind of things that I still feel guilty and ashamed of more than anything else, especially like friendships, friendships where like the other thing with guilt and shame is that makes it really tricky is you can feel guilty and ashamed of something you did or said, right? But what makes it even more pernicious is that you can feel guilty or ashamed of something you didn't say or didn't do. And to me, those are far worse because that's what a coward does. A coward is someone who didn't come forward, who didn't say what needed to be said, and who didn't do what needed to be done, and who didn't have the difficult conversations that needed to be had. And so when I think about like what still eats away at me to this day, like a lot of stuff I've kind of put in the past, and a lot of stuff I'm in the process of repairing right now. And so like I feel pretty good about life in general, like from like a momentum perspective. But when it comes to things that still eat away at me that'll never be fixed, it's always cowardice. Like the things you say and do, you can kind of patch those over. But the things you didn't say and didn't do, things that like might only be in your heart that no one knows about, just between you and God, those are the things that eat away at me. And so like, but those can also motivate you on a daily basis, right? This is what I mean by guilt and shame can be really powerful motivators. So now like the pain from not having hard conversations and not doing hard things, that stays with me on such a regular basis that whenever I'm confronted with a path with like an easy choice and a hard choice, like I always go right to the hard choice. Like I always go right to difficult conversation. And whenever I feel something in my, instinctually, whenever I feel like fear, or whenever I feel something being like, oh, this is going to be difficult, like I'm right there. And that's a function of having made all the mistakes that I did and having not had the hard conversations that I did in the past. And so is this going to help you avoid guilt and shame? No. But I think number one is like you have to acknowledge them. And then number two is you have to learn the lessons from them and incorporate them into your day to day. I think, again, like one thing I've tweeted over and over is easy choice is hard life, hard choice is easy life, right? So I look back at my own path. I took easy choices that led to a hard life for me. And the way you get out of that, like you talk about rock bottom, now I found that making hard choices has led to an easier life. And so like kind of use that framework to like, that's why I say like, get up at fucking 4 a.m, go fuck yourself up in the gym, like be disciplined all day in everything you do. Because those are hard choices. Everything you're doing is a hard choice. Like I've been getting up at 4:30 for like years now. But every morning I don't want to get out of bed. Like no one does. I think if you even talk to like a David Goggins or like a Jocko Willink or these guys who are crazy disciplined, they'll still tell you like, nah, bro, like I don't want to get out of bed either. Like shit sucks. But you just get used to this whole mindset of making hard choices. And as you make hard choices throughout the day and win all these small little victories, that's how you get your mind back. And that's how you climb out of rock bottom. So as you can tell, I have like a lot of other things to say on this topic. It's just something I think about pretty much every single day, like keeping my mind clear, avoiding guilt, avoiding shame, like keeping my self-respect, keeping my dignity, like doing the right thing, like seeking to know God, being good to my friends, being good to my family. But what I would say is that if you're at rock bottom and you're kind of finding your way out, just keep in mind that once you start picking up momentum coming out of rock bottom, it's like the most powerful vibe. It's the most powerful aura that you can have. And I can actually pick up on it almost immediately. Even if I'm just like reading Twitter and I see someone's, I can go through someone's feed. I can see a man who has been broken and rebuilt. There's just like an aura, even if it's an anonymous account, even if I've never heard them speak, never like looked them in the eyes, I can just tell. You can tell when a man has been to hell and back. And like it's an amazingly powerful vibe. And so I hope that for anyone who's like stuck, the best thing I can say is just like start making the most difficult decisions you can. Then when it comes to changing your life, like change everything all at once. Like don't, I'm not a big believer in like moderation or like taking baby steps. Like kind of write down the changes you want to make and pick a date. It could be like, first of the next month. But then on that date, like everything, change your whole lifestyle, change your whole way of being, and kind of just disappear from the world for like 3 to 6 months and start putting these things into place. And like go about your day to day, do what you got to do to pay your bills, but like just disappear. And that's how in 3 to 6 months you can change your entire life. I've done it. I speak from experience, and it's funny. Like you'll come back out into the world after those 3 to 6 months of like changing your habits, and you'll just find that you view the world differently. And like friends that you used to have, you don't see eye to eye with them anymore. Like you've grown, you've changed, and so just keep an open mind to all of that. But anyway, I hope this is helpful to any of you that are struggling. Like, please feel free to reach out directly. Like the DMs that I get are crazy. Like I love all of you people. There's some beautiful souls out there. Everything you say to me stays with me, always will be. But keep it coming, man. Like out of everything in life, this is the only shit that's important. Like the only truth in life is found in pain and suffering. And so I hope this is helpful. Reach out if I can be of use, and have a blessed day, y'all.